And let's be honest, it feels like this is one of those seasons when as fans and even as media members, it's not like Draymond's punch. There aren't cameras hiding in the top of the rafters that catch everything. And it feels to me like one of those years where there are a number of really big stories, really big things happening behind the scenes that we don't know anything about.
I think so.
And
we can start with the punch.
We can start with the punch.
Like Draymond, Jordan Poole, and the overall ethos of the team. Where is it in relation to, I don't know, last June when we all were on Market Street broadcasting live, and there are pictures of you and I broadcasting where we are absolutely being showered by blue and yellow confetti.
Hashtags any eyewear.
Exactly. Yeah. It was an unbelievable day. It's one of my favorite shows you and I have ever done. Yep. We had a good show, but the fact that we could look out beyond our table there and see floats going down Market Street for Amazing. A Warrior parade, and here we are not even 8 months later. Maybe it actually is 8 months to the day later, and you're right. What are all the stories that we don't know? And we can start with the fallout from Punchgate. What has that really done to the locker room?
Well, let's take a look at the fact that Bob Myers remains unsigned. Let's take a look at the fact that Andrew Wiggins is away from the team and our thoughts are with him and we don't know why.
Right.
And I guarantee, I guess I can't guarantee, but it certainly feels to me, I feel strongly, that's just the tip of the iceberg. Like this
for Andrew Wiggins.
No, the whole
or
team.
In general, yeah.
There's just it feels like there's so much going on behind the scenes.
And how did Wiseman go from we're going to pick up your extension to we can't wait to trade you for damaged goods?
Right.
Like that story is a story.
And where does that leave Joe Lacob and Bob Myers, which is something we really want to get to today. John Ireland's going to join us in a few, but after that, we're going to get to your phone calls big time on where this organization sits, not just with the remaining 24 games, but where it goes from there. 888-957-9570. Take a listen to this. Just for example, and this is from Damon and Ratto yesterday, Monty Poole, NBC Sports Bay Area, was on and got into some really interesting state-of-the-team stuff. Now, when he talks about all three here, the triumvirate of Bob Myers and Steve Kerr and Steph Curry, take a listen.
Bob Myers up front in the front office there, he can leave. If he decides to leave, and he just might, that changes everything because the Warriors have built themselves around the triumvirate of Bob Myers, Steph Curry, and Steve Kerr. If any one of those three guys leaves, the whole dynamic changes. Everything changes. And the other two guys, all three of those guys know that if any one of them leaves, it changes everything.
Okay, so there's going to be more to share with you on what Monty was saying, but it kind of speaks to what we were just talking about on the changeover and my point that almost likening it to the Death Star, and that's probably a bad comp because the Warriors are like a live star, not a Death Star. It's been a great thing, not something that's awful.
Right.
But the point being that there's this center core that if it blows up, the whole thing, as we know it, crumbles. And I think, as Monty's saying, you can make the case that Myers and Kerr and Curry are all that. If you lose one, I'm not saying you lose all three, they all leave, but maybe the version of them that leaves.
Well, the version of this, as we know, I believe is leaving whether or not Myers, Kerr, or Curry leave. Because I think Draymond Green, if he opts out and he decides to play elsewhere next year, but they sign Bob to a deal and Steve Kerr decides he wants to keep coaching and Steph Curry's under contract already, the fact that Draymond Green leaves, the version of this that we know will be totally different because, you've said it yourself, and the notion is that you can't win without Draymond Green. And maybe you can't win with Draymond Green anymore. Maybe you can't win a championship anymore anyway. But if Draymond Green decides to go play elsewhere, what we know as the Warriors dynasty, it's different.
Yeah, that's true, but it also feels like you can still function in a way. In other words, like if I had asked any Warrior fan at any point, last 3 years, let's say, do you feel like all three are going to finish their career, and I'm talking now about Steph, Clay, Dre,
right?
Or all three going to finish in a Warrior uniform? Like the odds-on bet would be no.
No.
Okay, but so which one would you pick first to be like, I bet he ends up somewhere else to end his career?
It was Draymond and even
always.
beyond the contract.
Right, yes, Draymond for sure. Clay is the middle one where we're kind of like, oh, God, that would be painful, but it might be understandable. I get it. Steph is the one that for us, we hope and we feel is completely off the table as far as this idea. So I don't think I've ever been under the impression that all three were going to ride into the sunset and put down Warrior jerseys and then retire. Like, that's just that's not realistic, right?
Right. And it's not realistic. And if you look at any team that's had this measure of success, or even a team that hasn't had this measure of success, when you have three stars like this, to think that they're going to come up with one team and stay with one team for their whole career, it just doesn't happen. And I actually was saying this to Kyle in the green room. We had this discussion, and I think I caught you off guard with my take. But Kyle said, what if Steph Curry agrees to stay here the rest of his career, but you never win another championship? And I said, if Steph Curry would be here for the rest of his career and you never went to the playoffs again, I would be okay with that, as opposed to Steph Curry going somewhere else and actually playing well.
But you said for the rest of your life. I was like, man.
Well, the rest of his life, his NBA life.
Well, okay,
and I hope my life goes longer than his NBA life.
It is that important to us.
He turns 35 on March 14th. So we are 19 days away from Steph Curry's 35th birthday. And he signed for 3 more years, which means 36, 37, 38. He'll be 38 when his contract ends. At that point, if he wants to go somewhere else, I guess I'd be okay with it.
Yeah, as long as that somewhere else is just like home.
And as long as he doesn't go win somewhere else.
Yeah, exactly.